You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 275. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. Today, we're talking about the 5 types of wealth. What are they? Sahil Bloom is an investor, an entrepreneur, and an author, and has written the book, The 5 Types of Wealth, which comes out today. We sat down to discuss what each type of wealth is and how we can get there, and how it's really simple, small steps that each one of us can start taking today. It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't even take that much effort. But what it does take is for you to sit down and really want it. It takes questions and you answering them as honestly as possible and intention. So get ready for this amazing conversation I got to have with Sahil on the 5 types of wealth. Hi, Sahil.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you doing?
I'm great, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I love your setup. I like the plant. It's like we're in a studio.
I'm trying to keep it professional back here. I don't know. It's definitely a fake plant, so I can't claim credit for keeping it alive. If it was real, it would be dead for sure.
Well, that's good though. Then your background will never change. You won't have to worry about the seasons or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'll change, but the background won't.
Can you introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I am Sahil Bloom. I'm an author, I suppose now. First time I'm getting to say that. I'm the author of a new book called The 5 Types of Wealth. I am a writer and an entrepreneur and an investor. I run a holding company of several businesses that I operate and manage and invest out of a venture fund that I raised in 2022. And mostly I am known for being a writer of a newsletter called The Curiosity Chronicle, which goes out to about 1 million people twice a week, all about how to live a healthier, wealthier life.
Just 1 million people. That's all.
And the numbers do start to become a little bit baffling. And it's funny, my parents come from pretty traditional backgrounds, both of them. And, they hear these numbers or things, followers or whatever it is, newsletter subscribers, and it's sort of in one ear, out the other. You don't really know what that means. And so I had an opportunity to bring them along to a series of events that I did in India in earlier, or actually, I guess it was last year in 2024. And it was really fun because I think for the first time they understood what some of those numbers actually implied, in that there were real people who had interacted or read the things that I had shared and had found value in them. And they saw that there was actual people out in the world that you could touch and feel, not just numbers on a screen. So that was a really fun experience for them.
Isn't that funny? Because my mom's the same way. She's kind of like, people follow you and they listen to you, and you wrote a book, and how does that all work?
It is very funny.
It's hard to
get
social
across.
Media. Yeah. It's definitely new in the podcasting world, that it baffles my mom, at least.
Well, if you think about just generationally, across history, most of the thought leaders, quote unquote, from historical times did not become famous until well after they died, purely because it took that long for information to spread far and wide enough, the printers, and it had to get taken on ships and actually spread in that way organically. Now you can write something from home and reach people all around the world very, very quickly because of the way that it's social media and algorithms work. And that is both good and bad, obviously, right, for a variety of reasons. But what an incredible time to be alive if you are trying to share positive, valuable content, because you can truly reach people and impact them right now.
Yeah, exactly. And let's talk about the book, because it's going to impact people. And I fully understand after reading why there are certain parts of the book, what inspired each one, like the time part and your parents, and we'll talk about that, and your son. But what inspired you to bring together these 5 types of wealth? What inspired you to really create this book?
I had the realization in 2021 that the way that we measure our lives is fundamentally broken, or at least incomplete. The scoreboard, if you will, that we use to measure ourselves, which is money by default. It is the single number that we use and apply to ourselves to establish our life's worth, who we are, what we're worth, how we stack up against other people. And unfortunately, it's incomplete in the sense that money is a part of living a good life, but it is very far from being the only part. There are all of these other things that contribute to the happy, healthy, fulfilling life that we all want to live. And so the way that I articulate it is it's sort of one battle. Like money is one battle, but the war is about a whole lot more. And unfortunately, by winning the one battle, if you narrowly focus on the single battle, you may win that battle, but you will lose the broader war. And that is a future that a lot of people are marching towards if they don't expand the definition, if they don't expand their scoreboard to incorporate all of the things that are actually contributing to this good life that you are trying to lead. And the reason is because as Peter Drucker, the management theorist, said, what you measure matters. What gets measured gets managed. And that is the idea that the thing that you can measure ends up being the thing that you focus on. It's the thing that you narrowly hone in on and optimize around. So until you start measuring the right things, you will never be able to take the right actions or create the right outcomes. And that's really what this book and this whole idea is about. It's measure the right things so that you can take the right actions in your life to build around those things and create the outcomes that you actually desire.
It's so simply put. Like, as I read it, I like to think that I'm grounded, I'm balanced. I'm on this path already. But even as I read it, I went, oh yeah, that's a good one. The part about, and we can go through each type of wealth too, but the one that struck me was the money part. What is enough? Do you need millions and millions and millions? No. And as you put that you want a vacation home, I was like, well, that's exactly what I want. That's truly all that the next goal is that vacation home that turns into a retirement home. And that's it. And I will be happy. I don't need millions and billions. And then I also loved how you described Warren Buffett having so many billions, and would he trade where he is with you because you have time so that you can have the money, but you won't have the same time to spend the money. It was very much like, oh, light bulb
Hmm.
moments.
Hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that. I do like to think that across all of this, right? My general thinking is you have the answers within you. You really do. You know these things. You know that your time is important. You know that your relationships are so critical to living a good life. You know these things. You just haven't sat with the right questions yet. You haven't asked those questions that create the light bulb for you to say, oh, I actually need to build my life around those things. It's not enough to just know it in the back of your head. You need to take the small actions to build your life around it. So I might know that, the idea of having enough is really important. But until I actually start to articulate what does my enough life look like, that big question that I lay out in the financial wealth section, until I start to really define that, imagine it in like very clear terms, what does that life look like? Not a number, but an actual life. What does it look like? Until I do that, I'm going to have a very hard time creating the actions, taking the actions that are going to build towards that are going to enable me to experience gratitude when I am in that, when I am actually living that on a daily basis. And what you find time and time again in your life is oftentimes the things that we prayed for become the things that we complain about
Mhm.
if we allow them to, if we don't stop and pause and appreciate them and have gratitude for those things. And so much of this is like, just slow down a little bit. Stop getting on that treadmill and on that chase for all of the things that everyone else tells you should want. Start thinking about what you actually want and then go take the actions to build towards that.
I love this. You just keep talking all day.
Well, I mean, look, I am. Hopefully, it comes across, but and it's hard in words on a page, but this is like my life's mission. I experienced this. It's not about me. The book is not about me. The prologue has a little bit of my story, but the book is very much a manifestation of my journey. I was marching down that traditional path. I spent the first 30 years of my life chasing everyone else's definition of success, the definitions that are handed to you, the definitions that are basically around if you make enough money and if you get enough status and if you accumulate promotions and titles and nice things, that you'll wake up one day and be in that magical land of feeling like a success. Like you're, oh, okay, I feel good. I'm stress free. Everything's good. And along that journey, I was winning at that game, but every other area of my life had started to show cracks and crumble. My relationships had started to suffer. I was living 3,000 miles away from my parents who were getting older. I was never seeing them. My sister and my relationship had ground to a halt. My wife and I, unfortunately, were struggling to conceive at the time, and it was causing strain in our relationship. My physical health, I was drinking 6, 7 nights a week. My mental health, I was stressed. I wasn't sleeping enough. All of these other areas were suffering, while on the surface, in a normal world, you would have said I was winning the game because I was making money. So on the old scoreboard, it may look like you're winning when in reality, you are doing anything but. And so I started to realize, started to think that there had to be a better game to play. I had to be playing the game wrong in this journey that I'm on because I wasn't feeling that fulfillment, the satisfaction, the happiness that I was searching for. And I realized that you have to measure for the broader war if you want to win that along the journey. And that's really been what this is all about. That's the story. That's the message that I really want to share with people, is that you will never feel successful unless you create your own definition of success. If not, you will just be chasing what everyone else hands you, and you will always be chasing whatever more people tell you that you should have. If you create your own definition of success, if you craft your own true north of where you're trying to head, you can be successful and you can feel great on the journey, not just on your arrival at the destination.
What was your journey like from having this corporate career, having these relationships not going where they need to go, to evolving, to recognizing that your mental and physical health needed help, to getting to this point? Because it's not an overnight thing. And I know that when it comes to corporate career, I was 18 years in the corporate sphere as well. And now I work for myself. And it's not an overnight thing. So, what did that journey look like for you? And how can people who read your book and listen to this interview go, okay, I can do this as well, without having that worry? Because now we talk about the financial piece as well. We can't
Mhm.
just quit.
Yeah, and look, nothing in this book says that money doesn't matter. Not a single thing in the book. Actually, financial wealth is one of the 5 types of wealth, and there's a whole section with a guide of how to make money, how to continue to build that type of wealth in your life. It is to say that it is just one type of wealth, and that money isn't nothing. It simply can't be the only thing. In terms of how I made that change, tiny actions done on a daily basis that you zoom out in a few years and your mind will be blown at how transformational that can be. I mean, I have thought and said this on several occasions, but your entire life can change in 1 year. Not 10, not 5, not 3, 1. 1 year of focused daily effort, 1 year of asking the right questions, 1 year of better intentions, 1 year of leaning into the things that create energy in your life and leaning away from the things that drain your energy. Your entire life can change much quicker than you think. And all it takes is leaning into one tiny daily action and then allowing the momentum off of that to build. And so the whole book is really structured around that idea. It's start by asking the right questions. Start by asking the right questions so that you can start to define what does truly matter to you. What are the things that you need to have clear in your sights, top of mind as you continue to march forward in life? And then at the end of each of the sections, one for each of the type of wealth, there is a guide to the actual science-backed or proven strategies for building that type of wealth. And all of them are things that you can start doing today. They don't require a bunch of money. You don't have to invest tons of money into doing them. You don't have to invest hours and hours of time. You can start on all of them today. You can pick one and just start moving. And the thing that you learn if you've made any sort of change or progress in your life is If you're standing and you're staring at an enormous wall in front of you, very intimidating. I have no idea how I'm going to get to the other side of that wall. But you don't actually have to worry about that. All you have to worry about is taking the one action, putting the one little, brick down that you're going to start to climb up, starting to create the staircase. And the one brick does more than just the value of that one brick. It actually creates this momentum. It creates this winning feeling that you're making progress. You just have to solve the one problem, and then the next day you solve another one, and the next day you solve another one. And eventually you end up getting to the other side of the wall. And that is very much how I thought about my own progress. It was, take an action and evaluate and iterate and continue to build on that. And so for me, it was redefining and refocusing on these other areas that I had neglected, time being the biggest one, the amount of time I had left with the people that I loved most, the moments that I was allowing to slip by. I needed to take an action to expand that, to build my time wealth. I needed to become more aware of just how finite and impermanent my time really was.
It's so true. I don't know if you know the book 4,000 Mondays, or you only, what is it?
4,000 weeks.
No, it's a different one. You only die once. And she talks about the 4,000 Mondays, that we all have 4,000 Mondays, and, you can calculate how many you have left. And it becomes eye-opening of, okay, what are you going to do each week, every Monday? What are you going to do with all of that? And that goes back to the time piece. And I want to talk about the other four wealths you talk on too. So I love time, and I as I said, I took all my notes down of having specific goals around your time. How do you spend that time, and what do you allot the time to? Social. I want to talk about the social wealth, and I love this. Goes back to that book, You Only Die Once too. But I've also done a whole episode on funerals and why I love them, and how I wish that we had funerals that weren't for the person
living
who's passed.
Funerals.
Yes.
Yeah, living funerals. Yeah.
So that we can share these stories with one another. But I love that you talk about who's going to sit in the front row of your funeral and spending time with those people.
Yeah. We've all experienced, a moment of grief, a loss, something in our lives that has sparked this moment of like, I need to live differently. The wisdom from the other side, if you will, and you kind of hear that wisdom and you nod your head, and then most people go back living the same damn way they were before. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that I really want you to do, if you listen to this, if you read the book, whatever it might be, is to hear that wisdom, let it shine a light on your path, and then just do one tiny thing differently. And that tiny thing could be texting the friend that you've been thinking about and you haven't heard from in a while, and just saying, hey, I was thinking about you. Getting together for coffee with your sibling or with your parents, going for a walk, doing the one little thing. Because the one key takeaway when it comes to social wealth is investments in your relationships compound just as well as any financial investment. And we don't think of it that way, right? With a financial investment, $100 invested today is going to compound and build in my life into something much bigger than that. Great. I'm going to keep doing that. The exact same thing applies to your social wealth, to your relationships. An investment in your relationships today builds that relationship and that bond and that connection over the long term. And people often talk about they want someone they can call at 3 a.m. when their chips are down, when stuff is going bad in their life. Well, the way that you guarantee that you have that person is by being that person to someone else. Mm-hmm. You get what you put out into the world when it comes to relationships. So if you are that front row person, as I call them, the person that's sitting in the front row, if you are that to someone else, you will have those people in your life. And so that is the best way that you can cherish those people, is to be that to another person that's out there. And the reason that I feel this is so important is there is clear scientific evidence that the strength of your relationships is the single most important factor in living a happy, healthy life. The Harvard study of adult development was this amazing study over the course of 85 years. They tracked the lives of 1,300 original participants and then another 700 or so descendants. And they found that the single greatest predictor of physical health at age 80 was relationship satisfaction at age 50. Not your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your smoking or drinking habits, but how you felt about your relationships created your healthy aging future. But we don't invest in relationships. We don't take the time to think about the tiny actions that you can take to build those relationships. When we get busy, relationships are the first thing that get thrown by the wayside. And
Mhm.
as you get older, it requires you being the catalyst in a lot of cases. You have to send the double text. You have to be the one that's willing to get the group of friends together for the annual trip. You have to be the one that brings, the group out for the coffee or the dinner, or goes for the regular walk. You actually have to be the catalyst, and there's nothing wrong with you being the catalyst, because you will benefit from it so tremendously in your own life if you're willing to lean into those things in that way.
I totally agree. And also looking at the graph that you provided in the book of how much time we spend alone, and it just gets bigger and bigger as we get older. Well, if we put this investment in earlier, then we won't be so alone later on down the road by
Yeah.
creating that investment.
And it's even more striking when you think about the fact that that alone time, is more often than not now with this.
Hmm.
It's not true alone time. It's sitting with your phone, scrolling on social media, looking at other people's lives, comparing yourself to other people, being barraged by information, by stimulus. You're not really alone ever anymore unless you force it. And that means that you're actually not really getting the benefit of what solitude provides. I mean, solitude is an incredible muscle to build. The ability to be bored, to actually sit quietly and be with your thoughts, unlocks such amazing things in your life if you allow it to. I mean, think about, like, how many great ideas have you had in the shower
Oh yeah.
or while driving the car? I mean, it
I
is
have a
your most.
notepad in the shower.
Oh, that's brilliant, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna send you a text because I want to know which one. But it is, there's a reason, right? It's because solitude sparks creativity, but we are very rarely allowing solitude into our life. And so that chart that I show in the book on the amount of time that you spend alone, it's a little scary, because now, yes, you will be alone in terms of who's in your physical presence, but in your mental presence, you're going to have millions of people sitting there with you and distracting you and pulling you away from the happiness. And we know, like, if you map your happiness over the course of an average day, if you're anything like me, social media actually drives more unhappiness than happiness.
Oh yeah.
It leads to a lot of those negative feelings: envy, jealousy, comparison. And you can do your best to fight back against that by really monitoring and auditing the type of content you're consuming. But these algorithms are really powerful at feeding you the things that spark a very strong reaction, because that's what they want.
Right. Let's also talk about, and then the social part. I'm glad I wrote all these notes down. And this is very not like me, which is funny. But I knew that I would forget certain points. I'm talking about parenting and how we spend the most time with our kids, or they spend the most time with us, and we're their best friends the first 10 years. And then it becomes less and less. And my kids are 8 and 9. So
Mm.
I already see that we have friends, they come over and they take up more time. And, there's all the activities, but you truly need to invest in that time while they're young. So that way that investment grows as they get older.
Yeah. I mean, I consider it the probably single definition of success I have for my life is having adult children that still want to spend time with me.
Hmm.
Um, because that means that you have done something over the course of the 20 or 30 years that precede that. It means that you built a connection and a bond, and you had a presence and an energy about you, and that you navigated the natural tension that exists between presence and ambition. Presence is your desire to be present with your kids during every moment during those 10, 15, 18 years that you get with them. Ambition is the things that you want to do with your life. I mean, the things that you're trying to build, the purpose that you have, the things you're building, you're trying to provide for the family, all of those things that you're trying to do. Navigating that tension is, I would say, the most challenging thing as a parent.
Hmm.
And I wrestle with it. And in the book, there's a chapter on that exact idea. I wrestle with it around needing to make sure that your children understand the why behind what you are doing, because there are going to be moments when you are not able to be there in terms of your presence. You might be traveling for work, you might be working on something, you might be in a really focused sprint like I am right now on something. And that is actually a good thing as long as you share with them the why. because if you don't, they fill that void with the worst version, which is mom or dad doesn't want to be there. Mom or dad doesn't care about me, which is couldn't be further from the truth. But you need to fill it with the correct reason, which is that you are working something on something that matters to you, that you are building something, and that working hard on things that you care about, that light you up, is an important value, an important principle for your family and for your life. And that to me is, I think, a really important tension to navigate. And that's how I've wrestled with it historically.
I couldn't agree more, because that's how I am. I talk to my kids very openly, very much. They're involved in everything. And my book came out last year. It's been almost a year. And for them to have been on that journey too, the moment that book came to the door, there was tears all around because they understood what that meant. And how far we've traveled as a family to get to this point, because it's not just you or me that's doing this and sacrificing and working hard. They're a part of that too, as long as you allow them to be a part of it. So I absolutely love that. Let's talk about curiosity and the mental health. I love that we all have to be curious and be that child, and that's how we build that investment. Let's talk about how we can be curious.
Yeah. Curiosity is the real fountain of youth. You get old. You don't lose your curiosity with age. You get old because you were losing your curiosity. The people that I know that have aged really well, they have all cultivated their curiosity into old age like no one I've ever seen before. And I share the story of this 99-year-old family friend of ours, Hank, who to this day does some of the most crazy, like childlike things that I've ever seen as a 99-year-old. I tell the story of him going to Harvard on his 90th birthday and sitting in on an astronomy class, sitting in the front row, taking notes, doing things that have zero potential utility, quote unquote, as a human. He's not going to make money from being in astronomy. He's not a side hustle. It's just genuine interest and curiosity. And what I've come to realize is children, I have a 2.5-year-old. Children pursue their curiosity naturally. It's part of their default setting of how they observe the world and how they learn. As you get older, you have less and less space in your life to actually pursue your curiosity. You have all of these things that are filling your time. So when you have the spark of curiosity, you're actually not even able to go down that rabbit hole to lean into it. You think about it in your own life. As you get older, it's not that you are less curious. You literally don't have the time or space to go down that curious hole, whatever it is, on whatever thing. You don't. You're running around to a million different things that you've said yes to. So creating the space to be curious is a tried and true method to improving your mental wealth, to improving your ability to uncover your purpose, to connect to some higher order purpose, to experience the growth that comes with leaning into curiosity. And as I said earlier, creating space is such an unlock for life. And that has to be space that you're able to create away from technology, where you just breathe a little bit of air into your calendar so that you can benefit from the different ideas, the bigger picture thinking, the creativity, all of the things that stem from that.
Which then beautifully brings us into the physical wealth and how you recommend, taking a walk, but don't take it with, your AirPods in and the podcast running or the music running, but allow all of nature to be that noise, which allows that free space, which allows the curiosity. It all plays into it with the physical part by simply taking a walk.
Walks are a 100% free cheat code for life. Every area of your life improves from going on a walk. And by the way, I really mean every area. Like, obviously, they're physical and you get a health benefit from going for a walk. Mental, you get this unlock in space and creativity that comes from it. Actually, they did a study at Stanford that found that creative thinking improved by 60 or 70% during and after a walk. For people working on different problems that required creativity. For your social, going for a walk with someone is proven to increase levels of connection with the other person. It's crazy. They do these studies where they have people walk side by side, and having your gait match with the person walking side by side increases feelings of connection with them. So if you need to have a hard conversation with someone, do it on a walk, because it improves the quality of that hard conversation. It makes you feel more connected as you're having it. So with a partner, with a friend, with a colleague, whatever it might be, go for a walk together. It drives these feelings of connection, improves the level of communication. So it is, I like, if I could recommend a single daily habit that would positively impact your life, it would be to just start going for a 15-minute daily walk without your phone, without technology. Don't listen to this podcast on it. I'm sorry. Just be in your own head, be with your thoughts.
I love that, because to me, it also, and we did this during COVID when the kids were at home, we would go on walks around the neighborhood. And that's how we got to know our entire neighborhood. Was we were the woman with the kids and the dog and the walk, and we'd all wave. And so that built those relationships as well. And that's another important aspect. So I definitely, we need to get those walks back in, despite it being 30 degrees this morning.
I'm in the same boat as you. I live in the New York area, so I know the drill with the cold weather.
But even the 5 minutes, and I was sharing with Sahil before we started recording that as I read this section, I went, oh, I better start walking in place. Yeah. So you can even read and walk.
Yeah. Hey, and look, this is the important piece with physical wealth too, is that you are bombarded by information that tells you that you need to do the most complicated, fanciest routines and regimes if you want to make progress in your physical wealth. You need to do the crazy workout plan, the crazy diet, whatever the new thing is, the injections, the whatever the fanciest new thing is. That's what gets clicks on social media. That's what you're going to be fed. That's what you're going to be bombarded by, and convinced that you have to do those things in order to be healthy. That could not be more nonsense. Couldn't be further from the truth. And so what I propose in the book is this idea of viewing your physical wealth as a video game. Think about how to operate at level 1 before worrying about level 100. You just focus on level 1, which to me is 3 pillars. It's movement, nutrition, and recovery. And level 1 on those pillars is move for 30 minutes a day. Any type, whatever you like, walking, jogging, hiking, swimming, biking, whatever it is, move for 30 minutes a day. Nutrition, just try to eat whole, unprocessed foods at about 80% of your meals. That's 17 out of 21 meals during the week. And then recovery, just try to sleep for 7 hours a night. If you can do those 3 things on a daily basis, you get 80, maybe 90+% of the benefit from a physical wealth standpoint. And then you can start to work your way up. But focus there first. Don't worry about all the other noise. Don't worry about the fancy, expensive investments. Just start there. Don't worry about supplements or anything people are trying to sell you. I'm not like, look, I have a book. It's not about all this stuff. I don't have an ebook to sell you. I don't have a coaching plan to sell you. It's just the simple, boring basics. It would be a bad ebook if I were going to try to sell it around those things. It's not fancy enough. But that will get you the vast majority of the benefit.
I love it. And then you wrap up with financial wealth. And I love the advice that your dad gave you, that the best investment you can have is in yourself. It was perfect.
Yeah. My dad, when I was getting out of college, told me to make a rule to never think twice about investments in yourself. That was books, that was quality food, that was fitness, that was personal development, mental health. All of those things are investments in yourself that compound, that pay dividends for a long time in your life. And so think twice about the material purchases, the watches, cars, like random things that you want to buy, consumerism, but never think twice about investing in yourself, because those things are making you better for the long run.
I love that. This is incredible. It's like the book that I think we all need to read in our 20s, and then we should continue rereading it. So that way, when we get to our 40s, we don't have to go, oh yeah.
I do think that is one of the that's one of the cool things about this book is you will experience different seasons in your life. And I talk about that concept in the book, that what you prioritize or focus on during any one season will change. I mean, you may have in your 20s and 30s a time to focus on financial wealth. That is your primary focus. And you're going to have these other things as sort of small daily investments, but they're not your focus. You're building your foundation. As you get older, what you're focusing on will shift. And so you will read this book differently in those different seasons of your life. The questions remain the same, but you will be different. So you will view them, the lens, the sort of framework through which you see these questions will change, and you will come to different answers at different points during your own life.
Yes. And then the other one that you say in the book is, when there are books that change your life, you should take the time to reread them often.
You read this very closely. I'm impressed.
Telling you, I did.
I'm impressed. That is one of my favorite rules for life. Is there are only a few books in your life that really change you. And so rather than trying to furiously read, a book every single week and just churning through books over and over and over again, reread the books that have really impacted you, because the books don't change, but you did, and you will view them completely differently. They will impact you completely differently. So I think that's a great, great piece of advice for life.
I love it. I think it's great. It's such a needed book. You are terrific. I'm so happy that we got to meet and to connect, and I got to read your book. It's amazing. Can you share with everyone where they can find you, buy the book, all the good stuff?
Yeah, you can find the book anywhere books are sold now. I always love when people support local bookstores. So if you have a local bookstore you love, go pick it up there. Obviously, Amazon and all of those other places are options as well. You can find more information at the5typesofwealth.com. And you can find me at Sahil Bloom on every major platform.
Amazing. Thank you so much,
Thank
Sahil.
you. Thank you so much.
Friends, as I said to Sahil, I feel like I'm on that path. I am getting these types of wealth down. And yet there were aha moments, there were light bulb moments in which I felt like I needed more of these questions to ask myself, to answer, to sit with. And I love that we need more space. We need to create more space for the creative ideas, the creative endeavors, the curiosity, space to make time for our friends and those front row people, to be those front row people and to have those front row people. I loved reading The 5 Types of Wealth. I highly recommend that each and every one of you pick up a copy, because it's something that you will look back on and turn back to time and time again. I'm so grateful that Sahil took the time not only to share this wealth and this knowledge in writing this book, but in having this conversation with me. So definitely go check it out today, and congratulations to Sahil on his pub day of The 5 Types of Wealth.